roads. I mean, they were wet, the snow was off, they were out pushing it back. We just have some great employees, and I thank you for that.
Here.
And my name is Nagi Zinadi from sunny, beautiful St. George. I tried to bring you some sunshine. It's gonna show up today, so. And just like Commissioner Van Tassel, we drove 300 miles yesterday. Beautiful, well-maintained road, dry and nice and clean. And to that, I would like to extend our love from Commission and citizens of the state of Utah. Thank you all, especially those snowplow drivers, sacrifice their time and just the most beautiful job they do for all of us. Thank you, may God bless you all. Bless you, family, when you do that kind of dangerous job. Thank you, thank you. Of course, at this time, we recognize our federal highway partners. Thank you to say in the person, finally, Ivan Guerrero and Richie, welcome. Thank you for being with us. Carlos, time to introduce our Utah family.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Carlos Berseras, the Executive Director of the Utah Department of Transportation. We'll just go around the corner here. Heather, you want to?
Heather Barfold, I'm the Commission Assistant.
Rob White, Region 1 Director.
I'm Bob Pelley, I'm the STIP Coordinator.
Ivan Hartl, Financial Programming.
Eric Rasband, Region 3 Planning Manager.
Rob Clayton, Region 3 Director.
Matt Parker, Region 3 Program Manager.
Ben Hewitt, Program Development Director.
Troy?
Troy Peterson, Operations Director.
Tiffany Bohawk, Utah Project Manager.
Brad Palmer, I'm the Region 2 Program Manager.
Sharon Hillier, Finance Director.
Carmen Swanwick, Project Development. Cheryl Hirsch, Structures Division.
Robert Stewart, Region 2 Director.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth McMillan, Director of Communications.
Mr. Elizabeth McMillan, Strategic Investments.
Carrie Ann Noble, Technology and Innovation.
Jordan Lee, Technology and Innovation.
Wyatt Willie, Graphics.
Greg Potter, Utah Communications.
Mr. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can't see that far. We'll introduce you later.
Terry Newell, Deputy Director, Planning and Investment. Lisa Wilson, Deputy Director, Engineering and Operations.
Mr. Chairman, if I could introduce a member of our partner from the Governor's Office.
Yes,
Yeah, Colby Alverson from the Governor's Office of Planning and Budget.
did you bring your checkbook?
He's working on building it up for us.
Yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah, you have on to next month. Thank
And
you.
where's
Welcome.
Linda?
Thank you.
Where do you think?
Carlos, we're in the subject. Would you mind just give us some kind of introduction? Carlos, would you please give us some, so a little bit of an introduction, what's going on in the legislature, if you don't mind?
Well, that's a good question.
Just the brief, you don't have to go, it's not over yet.
Yes, yeah, Linda and Leif right now are up at the Capitol. We have two different committee meetings that they're attending right now. So a lot of bills still in play. I think you know that our base budgets have been passed and signed by the governor. So that kind of keeps the base government going on forward into the future. But there's a lot of bills that are still needing to work their way through the process at this point. So to predetermine the outcome would be probably insulting to the process. But I would be, myself and Terry and Lisa, we'd love to answer any questions that the commissioners might have about what you see going on up there, or hear about. If there's anything that we could
Anyone have any
try to answer.
questions? If not, we'll just wait for the next month to get over
You're
the
that
details.
clairvoyant, I'd like to know the answer.
Yeah, I am not, as the former senator, worked with him for many years in that Senate role. He knows how much change goes on. So executive appropriations is scheduled to meet later this afternoon to close out the day. And what typically will happen, you'll see a flurry of approvals of different colored packages of sheets, which will then set the framework for the legislative fiscal analyst staff to work over the weekend to start to prepare the appropriation budgets. That will then start to work their way through the process next week. So we'll have a much clearer idea of what that framework for the budgets will look like at the end of today.
Till the Christmas tree shows up.
until the Christmas tree shows up. And the senator is referring to that there has historically been, there's always people looking to try to promote their interests. And so we always are, responding to questions about what's this project or what's this project. So lots of individuals and entities are interested in trying to fund their individual projects. That's gonna fall out of whatever the legislature decides to do. There's a lot of pressure on them. I think when there's more money, I'm looking at Commissioner Menlove as well here. I think it's probably harder when there's more money than when there's less money, and I see a nod from Doug.
Definitely.
Um,
For those of you who don't know, I do the government relations work for Southern Utah University, so I'm up there all the time, and I have those one-on-ones with leadership, and I hear things like major investments in infrastructure and the word roads. So is it fair to assume that there might be some extra dollars coming our way for transportation?
Yeah, there's really no cards have been played on this. There are certainly discussions taking place that there's lots of one-time money. And when the legislature, looks to how to spend that type of money, they don't want to make investments in things that you're gonna have to fund ongoing. And so things like infrastructure investments have always fared well when there's one-time money. And so there's discussions going on, how much should come towards infrastructure, and if some does come, how would it come? Would it come to the, our position has been and continues to be that we want to advocate that any money that would come for infrastructure come to the commission for your disposition using, either, depending if it's transportation investment fund or transit transportation investment fund, that it come and work its way using your prioritization process for that decision making. And so that's what we continue to advocate for. We believe that's the good, strong governance of how to make those decisions. Now you may be sitting there thinking, well, gee, that just puts me in the middle of the crosshairs, and yeah, it does put you in a more difficult position. But I do believe you're gonna have, my guess would be there's gonna be more one-time money coming for projects. How that comes, whether it's directed towards individual projects or it comes as basically a block grant for the commission's disposition, is still gonna be, I'll bet you those decisions aren't made until a week from today, to be honest. But I think you will see more money, be my guess.
Well, we have a very long list, so Ben's multicolored list.
Yep, the Ben list.
May I just say, I'm not up there as a lobbyist, but I'm up there a bit because of friendships and other things, and the credibility that UDOT, Carlos, Linda, our employees have is just sky high because of the results we've had today. So congratulations again. Carlos is tireless. I think it's 28 hours a day, a job. This festival. Thank you.
I sleep very well. There's they like what we do collectively do. Both the public and the legislature and the governor's office, they like the product. And so we're in an enviable position that our role as a DOT is to deliver a product that people want and appreciate. So we're lucky.
Utah is still moving. We're keeping it moving.
Yep, working at it. Any other questions?
Thank you,
I
Carlos.
don't know. Terry, do you want to maybe mention a little bit the UTA bill? I know that's attracted some attention. What's going on with that?
I believe it's going to it's passed the House and it's going to the Senate. The bill has UDOT do capital investment projects that are fixed guideway with state funds. And the bill has language that by October 31st, we would present a plan back to Transportation Interim Committee on what that structure would look like within our organization. They also had 2 projects they mentioned that they wanted us to get involved with fairly quickly, which are Front Runner and Point of the Mountain. So we are, we've known about it for about 2 weeks now, and so we're trying to understand what that means and try to get engaged, and it does transfer responsibility to the department, so we need to make sure that Carlos is comfortable with the decisions and the approach taken on the projects, and so we've got to figure out what that means, so.
Does the bill include FTE?
The bill does not currently include FTEs. The idea would be we would come up with a plan. The bill, I believe, is gonna have some language that would allow us to spend some of the money out of TTIF to be able to kind of bridge the time until we have a recommendation on, clearly, I won't say clearly to me, we would need FTEs in order to make this work. And that's the structure that we're gonna try to figure out by the end of October, is what does that, do what we need to keep 2 projects in the responsibility phase, and then figure out how we would transition that for the rest of the projects that are part of that program. So by end of October, we would have a recommendation on what that structure would look like.
Thank you.
And so theoretically, it shouldn't change how the commission operates, because you have been prioritizing and selecting those projects out of TTIF. We have then taken that money and historically passed that through to UTA. The difference would be that we would now be
Responsible for it.
more responsible.
Again, another endorsement of UDOT's successes and credibility.
Well, UTA is a great organization, and we've worked really well together over the years. And I think this is just gonna help. Hopefully, it helps breed more confidence in transit, and we can see greater investments in transit.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go.
one comment I'd make is, we know, because we all work here at UDOT, we know what's going on, but I'll tell you, the reason executive appropriation is so important today, they're gonna get the big bills done. The big rocks are gonna kind of come to place today, because I cannot tell you the work the staff does at the Capitol. I mean, they're rewriting bills and making amendments, and most of those folks in the fiscal department, as well as they will work pretty much straight through. Most of them won't even go home this weekend. They will stay there just to get things ready for the winding. And they just do an amazing job, so it's, things are starting, having been there, I can tell you that things are starting to gel. We just don't know what pieces of the pie are gonna make it. And they'll get those that are pretty sure that they know are gonna make it, and that'll come out in the next bill that will come. But there's a lot of work to do up there the next 5 days. 6.
Thank you for the comment. Are we okay to go forward then? Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Lisa, you had anything to say? You're so quiet there. Okay. Thank you. So next item of the agenda is our federal highway report. So Ivan Marrero, you have the podium. You said you cannot say anything last time, so let's see if you have anything to say this time.
Not a good stuff. You can't say something good, don't say anything. My mom.
I just sent Regina for those occasions. Thank you, Heather. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioner. I'm Ivan Marrero, and I serve as a division administrator here in Utah for the Federal Highway Administration. Thanks again for giving me a few minutes to present a couple of items from the federal side to you. And I do just have a couple of items, so let's see. There we go. So the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act contained a program called the RACE, or Rebuilding American Infrastructure and with Sustainability and Equity Discretionary Grants Program. This used to be called Tiger under prior administration, then built under another administration. So anyway, we're calling it RACE, and so that one provides this year $1.5 billion in discretionary grants for projects that will provide significant improvement to local and that will have significant impact in the local and regional basis. So we have $1.5 billion available this year. There will also be $75 million available for pre-construction type of activities, and also $15 million for projects located in areas of persistent poverty or historically disadvantaged communities. We have issued the notice of funding opportunity on February 4th, and the deadline for submitting the applications is April 14th. So I would encourage any agency who in the state of Utah interested in these grants to please submit their applications. The Department of Transportation will be providing several webinars to help agencies with the application process, and I have provided a link there to help them access that schedule. A couple of details on these grants. The match is 80% on the federal side for projects located in urban areas, and then it can be as high as 100% for projects in rural areas or in areas where there's persistent poverty or historically disadvantaged communities. The minimum award size will be $5 million for urban areas and $1 million for rural areas, and then the maximum award for a particular project will be $25 million, or for a particular state, $225 million. I'm sure you guys will have a couple of projects lined up for this program. The second one, another thing that the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act provided was a $7.5 billion to develop a national electric vehicle charging network. And so we just on February 10th, we issued guidance on this program, and we actually issued the apportionments for the states. So a few details on this program. Like I said, there's $7.5 billion available, and it's got two elements to it. One is the formula program, which, like I said, we just there's a $5 billion program, and we just issued the apportionment. So this year, Utah received $5.3 million for that effort, and the initial fund is supposed to be spent on developing the alternative fuel corridors, and we want to focus on the interstate. So get the interstate routes system built out, and then once that's completed, funds can be spent on other public roads. So the way it works, the states need to develop a plan, submit that to federal highways for our review, and it's due on August 1st, and then we will review it and provide our decision by September 30th. The federal share is 80%, and but the state can use state funds or public sector funds to match the remaining portion of the project. Let's see. Another part of this program is this charging station program is the discretionary grant program. There's two discretionary grant programs. One is for corridors, and then the other one's for communities. So if communities want to apply to set up charging stations in their communities, they're able to apply for these grants. And also we have funds available also for alternative fuel corridors. So these are discretionary ones. So.
Those also divided by states as well, Ivan?
No, they're not. I'm not aware that I think though and if I'll get back to you if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that the discretionary grant part does not limit how much money is distributed to us. I think that's the formula for it.
We got a lot more dirt in the state between charging stations than New Jersey or something, so.
Yes, we do.
So we gotta have more stations.
And with this new act, there's a lot of new programs, a lot of new policy, a lot of new guidance, a lot of grants that are out there. So I just wanted to provide this so people would know a place they can go to just kind of start to learn or get information on all that's available out there. But if there are any questions, you can always just reach out to our office and we'll do what we can to help you along with this. I know when it comes to the electric vehicles, we've already been dealing with Mr. He's gone. Mr. Lyle back there, getting him some details. I know he's sort of in charge of putting all that program here in Utah, so we've been helping him along with that. Anyway, that's what I have for you this morning. Are there any questions?
Any questions from anyone? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Those are some pretty big numbers.
Yeah, big.
Item number 3 on your agenda is UDOT scoreboard, and we have Carmen, actually, coming down. And then Troy Peterson will follow.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Carmen Swanwick with Project Development. And I'm just going to give you kind of a brief update on the status of our project delivery. So starting here, we have an additional 70 projects coming within the next 60 days. We're showing 4 past due right now. We do have a plan in place to have those delivered. 3 of those are due to some third-party coordination items in those projects, but you'll see that those will be delivered soon. For advertising performance, we're just about $304 million worth of projects delivered at this point through this fiscal year, totaling about 74. So I think we're on target to get our advertised on time goal at this point. Moving on to the total cost estimates for the project within the last month. So that's been about 45 projects so far in the last month, totaling about $190 million worth of projects. And if you have questions as I go through this, please let me know. Moving down to advertising status. As we're tracking, we are over here in February. So we're delivering those projects, either advertised on time or early. You can see we have a lot of work going on right now in concepts and scoping. And so you'll see these in the next few months, moving over into, setting those advertising dates as we develop the scopes for those projects. And then taking a snapshot of that, so to get us to June, just wanted to point out here that we're going to be delivering about $970 million worth of projects. So we do have a big program ahead of us. Moving down into the construction side of things, we just have the numbers through December at this point, but it's pretty standard, especially if you look back at the previous month or previous year. We're really tracking 149 projects right now in construction. And we'll see these payments going up as the weather warms up and will be, more construction will be occurring. So here are the contractor payments that tie into the previous graph. And again, you can see the payments going out is just, we're in winter work right now. So you'll see these start to go back up again as more work occurs with the improvement on the weather. And that is my update for you today. Oh, wait, I have one. Oh no, sorry. So this is the contract award for the engineer's estimate. And really we're tracking well with our estimates at this point. They're in line with the bids that we're getting. that is my update today, and we're happy to take any questions if you have any.
It's a big contributor to our economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Troy Peterson, Operations Director for UDOT. I get to talk about our strategic direction, our zero fatalities portion of that. One thing I'd like to point out real quick here, when you look at our strategic direction, our BMT has been updated for 2020. There's a small adjustment there. So, oh wait, this is not the most updated. Let me refresh this real quick. Fatality rate should have dropped to 0.91 for 2020. We had some
You fixed it good.
I did it. We won't give this much longer here. Imagine, if you will, that this graph would show a fatality rate in 2020 of 0.91, and then this year our rate is at 0.96. And if you remember from last month, ours was 0.96 for 2020, but there was some adjustment in the BMT. They finalized those numbers, so our rate dropped for 2020. Our BMT, again, I'm going at liberties here, but our BMT is as well as over 34 billion vehicle miles traveled for 2021 for Utah. So our BMT went up, fatalities went up, and when you calculate the rate, our numbers still stayed under the 1, which is, I mean, if there's a bright spot, we're still under 1. I mean, we still have way too many fatalities per year. As a reminder, we did have, what's this graph here too? For 2021, we had macro. This is gonna, the graph's not even here anymore. There we go. We don't still have it. There it is. 329 fatalities in 2021, which is an increase of about 20. Actually, it was about 19% higher than the year before, when we had 276. Currently, this year, we're at 38 fatalities for the year. 8 of those are in our vulnerable user category, which at this point, those are all pedestrian related fatalities, which that's, right now it's about 27% of our fatalities for the year. If you look at 2020, in our vulnerable user category, we had, or I'm sorry, 2021, we had 90 fatalities, which was roughly 27%. So we're tracking right around that 25% of our fatalities each year are in our vulnerable user groups, when you say vulnerable users, that's pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists. What a struggle this morning. So that's kind of an update on where we are in terms of fatalities as it relates to this year or last year. But I wanted to take a little bit of time today to show some graphs on breakdowns on our fatalities statistics. Where is it?
Trying to run it.
Where is it? There? No, that's about it. Oh, there it is. Okay, this first graph here is showing our fatality rate, crash rate, and our BMP back to 1940. And you'll see over the last 80 years, we've seen a steady decrease. So, but both of our crash rate and our fatality rate. And the other thing is this dark mass is our BMT. this thing out of the way so you can actually see. Watch there. Just thought it was an interesting graph to see how our BMT has grown over the years and how our fatality and our crash rates have dropped. Interesting graph. Just wanted to share that one today.
How is the new alcohol restrictions played into this? There's been some media about that, Utah's lower rate.
We have, obviously we have a lower, which is interesting. I have a graph here and we'll show you in a second if we can actually advance this. It's not advancing. We do have we can show a trend of ours is actually going up, fatality trends. Okay, yeah, but it's been a little higher over the last 2 years. I think it does. I mean, we do have work to do in terms of educating and helping enforcement to get people to not behind the wheel when they've partaken of
Eternal challenge.
ginger alcohol. This particular graph shows the most common types of crashes. This in 2021. Motorists obviously is our highest one, impaired driving, speeding, unrestrained, and a bunch of others. The next graph I want to show you here. This is weird. Okay. To dive into the motorists, this is drilling down just a little bit further and breaking down what we're seeing. Roadway departures is probably our leading cause of fatalities.
What does that mean?
So leading, good question. So roadway departures crash is defined by a vehicle leaves either going off the right side of the road, left side of the road, but it's a crash that's occurred after the vehicle's left the roadway.
Like on I-70, there's always ones like that on I-70 where they can't even find them until a couple of days later.
Yikes.
And you'll notice that these are scattered throughout the state, whether it be urban versus rural. The next graph I have here shows you the breakdown of these fatalities as it relates to whether it's an urban setting or in the urban where the crash occurs. And you'll notice that typically, and this is a trend nationwide that you'll see that in the rural versus the urban. We do have a fair share of those in the urban setting, but you'll know that I mean obviously we have a lot more barrier in the urban setting, keep people from leaving the roadway, so that helps through that process. The next graph I have here is another one of our leading causes of fatalities related is intersection related crashes, and you'll see those are up in 2020 and 21. We're seeing a little bit higher numbers on those as well. The next graph I have for you is just taking all our fatalities and separating and breaking them down, whether they're urban versus rural. And you may have remembered last year, we saw an uptick in the urban, and this year we've seen an uptick in both urban and rural. Looking a little bit deeper in that, we said, okay, state road versus non-state road, the breakdown. Last year, in 2020, we had an increase, I would say a decent increase in the number of fatalities on non-state routes, where this year seems like the majority of those we saw on state routes.
For this graph to be relevant, or for me, what is the percentage of roads in the state that are state roads versus non-state?
That is a great question. I'm not sure. I don't know.
So by centerline miles, there's about 70% are local roads. But if you looked at lane miles, so like I-15 is one centerline mile.
Right.
Might have 14 lane miles there. So that percentage changes dramatically when you look at lane miles. When you look at traffic, the state system is carrying a little over 70% of the traffic.
Thank you. That helps
And
with my
over 90%
relativity.
and over 90% of the freight traffic.
Are we able to tell in the rural areas, are the fatalities, or do we track whether they're a local driver or I didn't do that.
We do have that information. Unfortunately, I don't have that today.
And I asked that question just because we had a fatality a couple, 2-3 weeks ago coming off the mountain from an out-of-state truck driver that just didn't know what he was, didn't know the road. I'm wondering how much of that we have.
We do have those broken down. I guess I mentioned I don't have.
It's a relatively low percentage.
Is it?
Yeah, but we still keep track of that information.
Sometime I'll get with you and get that, just because I
I'll give that to you. Sure. Okay. Next graph I have here is showing question you asked about DUIs. You see our since 2013, this is our DUI tracking for fatalities. Now, a couple of things on this one to look at. There was, 23, roughly 23 to 2015 could have been, there's some little smaller, the numbers look lower. There was some changes in the record keeping that occurred that may show why there was an increase from 2015 up. Needless to say, in the last couple of years, we've seen a rather large increase in the number of DUI related fatalities. We couple that with the next graph here I have.
And I don't know what your next graph is, but when we say DUIs, it's alcohol and drugs, and it's prescription and non-prescription medication. Highway Patrol is reporting that they're seeing a lot more both drugs and alcohol as DUI stops.
The next graph here is speed related. Fatalities, those are also elevated over the last couple of years.
Right. I have a question.
Yes.
Has anyone looked at the correlation with DUI and speed and how they're related? Are the DUI fatalities, is
Are they
anyone-
linked?
Yeah, looked at those together?
That's a great question. I don't have the answer to that one.
We do have the information to figure that out. You may have heard on the news recently, where the wrong way driving, where people get on the highway going the wrong direction. Those definitely have a correlation with being impaired. But we do track the information on, whether it's, because a lot of when you look at what we call the 5 different behaviors that cause 94% of the crashes, or that contribute to 94% of the crashes. There's a lot that have several of those behaviors.
That's what I'm wondering, if they're compounding factors.
Yes.
Carlos, when you said that a lot more alcohol and prescription drugs, is that like together?
Yes. It used to be more one or the other, but they're seeing more people that are using both.
Okay. Let's see, next one here, unrestrained. We talked a little bit this last month. We've seen an increase in unrestrained motorists, so our fatalities have gone up. If you remember back in 2015, we had the primary seatbelt law that went into effect, and you can see there was kind of a gradual decrease after that. But last little bit we've seen, based on our Utah Highway Safety Office, and they do a seatbelt survey. We were at 90.2 in 2019, and this last year we dropped to 88.2 on the survey for seatbelt use, which is that is another correlation to the increase in fatalities as well. One other statistic: 33% of our fatalities this last in 2021 were those who chose not to wear a seatbelt.
So 12% of the population doesn't wear a seatbelt, but makes up over, say, 33%
of our fatalities. Yes. Just another quick graph here on pedestrians. Wanted to highlight our terminal user group. We had 46 fatalities in pedestrians. One graph the question was asked last month about our rate, how we compare with the state in terms of vulnerable users, and This graph, we show, here's the red graph is basically the 5 states with the highest rate for pedestrian fatalities. And the green line is the 5 lowest, and Utah is blue. You can see where we rank compared to the 5 best, the 5 worst, and then the yellow is the state overall, or the country overall.
Question?
Yes.
These numbers, I'm sure you track this, but as we have numbers of cars on the roads go up and numbers of drivers, is a percentage of that, are they going just about the same ratio, but going up because those are going up, or, I don't know if I'm making sense. So where you have, obviously when you get a larger population, more drivers, you're going to maybe have a few more fatalities. I'm just wondering, is that, how do those track? Are we just kind of staying the same, or is percentage going higher versus drivers, or percent? I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, so this
Just on all these in general, just when you talk about fatalities.
Better or worse?
Yeah, going up, is it in terms of compared to like the number of cars on the road, the number of drivers, is it tracking about the same, or is it going up higher or lower in terms of percentages?
So this particular graph is based on population, so every 100,000.
Okay, but I'm just talking about, I'm just talking in general, all the ones you've been showing us, like all,
Go back to that graph that
like
shows
the fatality
population
one, or
increase and
a
the
person.
and the rate, the one that you have the background of the population
Yeah,
increase.
so for example, when the population grows,
Keep going.
there's more pedestrians, and there's,
Or
Any
the
of
first one.
No,
That one.
that one.
yeah, just.
So this is the increase in population in the background blue. Or
Okay.
vehicle miles.
Vehicle miles traveled, so
Vehicle
go back
miles
to the
traveled.
question you were asking, right?
Okay, yeah. Right. Thank you, yeah, that's,
So
so
you
to
can
see
see
the correlation of that, thank you.
So I mean, if you look at it from a rate perspective, over the last 50, 60 years, we've been doing well. And so I think what's important is there's a lot of numbers here, and looking at trends and focusing on trends is probably more important than the individual numbers.
Thank you.
Let's see. I think that may have been. Oh, and I just want to show the bicycles, pretty stable, pretty level on that number. For bicyclists, and then motorcycles is the other part of our goal. We had 39 in 2021. So that's all I had for you today. Any other questions?
What constitutes a serious injury?
So serious injury is causing permanent disabilities, hospitalizations, any of those. It's basically anybody who very serious accident.
They'll know.
Yeah, exactly.
It just seems like I see a lot of motorcycles doing crazy things with or without helmets. I'm just surprised it's only 300. That's less than one a day. I see that pretty much every day I drive. I'm just curious.
So what's interesting too is you see the uptick in the number of serious injuries.
Yeah.
But the fatalities is staying pretty static in terms of.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting trend we're trying to look at too.
Yeah.
More people wearing helmets. I'm not sure the answer to that yet.
Since the legislature approved lane filtering, any effect on what's happened there on fatalities or serious accidents? Is it improved, stayed the same?
I think it's a little early for us to know the answer to that one.
There has not been any data that shows that it's gotten worse. In fact, there was a sunset on that bill, and they extended it this year.
I'm just curious. You go to Taiwan, everything filters.
Everything filtered. Yeah, you're right.
No, just a comment, actually. Troy, I just wanted to thank you and your team at the Traffic Operations Center for the tour that they opened their doors, offices. They might have keyed my thing to work that building instead of this building. But even they made an effort to have the incident management vehicle out and show me what that was all about and how they're able to move vehicles. And then later that afternoon, I was able to see one actually working on the road. While we were there looking at the big screen, this is way bigger, way cooler than a megaplex because you can see all the things all over the state. They were able to have someone start a car fire, so I could see that over my Cleaver lights out over in South Jordan, so we can see how that works when people have to play four-way stop. I just want to commend you and your team for the great work that you do, the focus on safety and taking care of. Jim, I know that you weren't able to go that day.
I was in quarantine.
Too bad for you, but that meant they could answer all of my questions and I didn't have to share the
We're
attention.
gonna go do another, we're gonna make another.
If you've not done that, commissioners, it's really a wonderful experience. The relationship that UDOT has with the National Weather Service, that they have with public safety, the role that we play in all of that, I just think is really remarkable. And it was really wonderful to have that experience. So thank you.
Awesome. That was great to have you there. And like Don mentioned, anybody, we'd like to have any of the commissioners come to for a tour of the TOC, and we'd be more than happy to coordinate setting those up. In fact, Commissioner does a very good job of, maybe she'd even like to lead our next tour because she got it figured out.
Just my badge works on that building.
Lots of good questions, so appreciate that.
It was a great experience.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
The next item on your agenda is item 4, public comments. And as of this morning, we have one pre-recorded comment from Mayor Fusi, who would love to be here, but she's in dentist's office this morning. So we're gonna have that. Following that, we'll have in person, we have Cameron Couch. And he's gonna talk about the Uinta wax. There she is.
Hi, my name is Mayor Michelle Kafusi, and I would just like to give my 2 cents on why I feel so strongly about the connection of the Provo River Trail all the way up into Heber, and our piece potentially being the piece that hits the Deer Creek Dam. It is one of our most used parks, and I know you're thinking that's the river trail, but it is considered a park, and it is, I was pulling the numbers today, there's usually about 959 users a day on that. And the connection would make a significant difference for the users. The reason because of the increase in the price is because, as you all know, as you've been up Provo Canyon, it's tricky. It's gonna be tricky to connect it, so it is gonna be a little costly. But it's going to serve so many people, joggers, walkers, fishermen, bikers, everyone will enjoy this amenity. So Michelle Kafusi, Provo City Mayor, is in full support of this project.
Mr. Chairman, you may notice that is item 6A7 on your agenda for your consideration today.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I just want to acknowledge that Mayor Kafusi was wearing bright red in that video. Nice to see you.
She looked good, yeah.
She looked good. The Kafusi BYU University of Utah family situation dynamics are very intriguing. I'm in blue today.
On Friday, we wear red.
Okay.
Which is why I'm always in red here.
I have green and blue on today, so I also support UVU down there too.
I have Ukraine's national colors on today.
I'll keep it.
Well, you should.
Well, welcome, Cameron. Tell us what you need.
Thank you, Chairman Zanati, members of the commission. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. My name is Cameron Kush, and I'm representing Uinta Wax and Finley Resources. Uinta Wax and Finley Resources is a partnership between CH4 Energy and Finley Resources. We operate over 300,000 net acres in the Uinta Basin and produce about 28,000 barrels of Uinta black and yellow wax. We have 130 employees, and we have 3 rigs running in the basin and invest about $250 million in annual budget out in the Uinta Basin. We also have our own frac sand facility out there and producing our own frac sand. That's helped our well economics tremendously. We have the Wildcat rail terminal in Helper, Utah. And so we use Highway 191 to take barrels down to that facility. And so I'm really here to advocate for Highway 191 today. We're currently producing about 20,000 barrels above the 80,000 limit in Salt Lake City. And we're taking that to the Gulf Coast. Our CEO, Jim Finley, has been very instrumental in creating an export market for this resource. And we expect to continue to grow this resource. Our Wildcat terminal is being upgraded to produce 30,000 barrels, and our phase 2 will take us up to 60,000 barrels. We have 900 rail cars in our fleet. Our partners, our stakeholders are very important to us. Obviously, our oilfield service companies, local businesses, and our local government, both local commissioners, tribal government, and our state and agencies and federal partners as well. We're very committed to the environmental, social governance. Emissions are something that's very important to us, and so we're working very hard to create a safe operating environment that considers our environmental goals, and our compensation are tied to our ESG goals. The export markets are creating a stable economy in the Uinta Basin. There's great demand for the resource that we're producing in Salt Lake City and in the Gulf Coast refineries. Oilfield service companies can plan for their businesses for the next 3 years, and community banks can have confidence investing in these businesses. This slide here is one of the really important slides for us. The red line shows that Salt Lake City can only handle 80,000 barrels per day. And so we're currently at 20,000 barrels above that number, all going down to the Wildcat facility in Helper, Utah. Highway 191 or Indian Canyon has to be reliable. We currently have about 60 to 72 trucks per day going down that road. And we expect to grow production over the next 3 years to 180,000 barrels a day.
That's just your company we're talking about.
But not just our company, but some other producers as well.
Total from the basin.
Total from the basin, yep.
Kevin, you said that 2 years?
Excuse me?
You said in 2 years you're gonna grow to that?
3 years.
3 years.
Yep, next 3 years. And so we're gonna need about 200 more trucks on the road, 400 plus drivers, and 3,000 rail cars to accomplish what we're trying to do. So Highway 191, very important to that. Ask you to consider, studying that, widening some areas, certainly a safety review, areas to pull off. Those are all things that are important. But what's really interesting about all of this is that through that production, you're going to see a significant amount of severance tax over the next 3 years, $225 million that will come to the state of Utah as a result of all this growth. And so that's something that can help pay for projects like Highway 191. Again, basin growth, we're going to need more hotels, restaurants, consumer goods, more labor, and more oil field equipment. So it's really Eastern Utah, the Uinta Basin is really important economic engine for our state. I want to talk a little bit about our product, Uinta Black and Yellow Wax. It's a unique product. It has unique characteristics, and it's a transition material. It produces a lot of the high-end lubes that go to support these windmill turbines. And there's a big market for this resource. Wax engines, there are over 1 billion automobiles that have wax thermostats that derive from this resource. And so building materials, textiles, cosmetics, packaging are all derived from this resource. And so in conclusion, Uinta wax is a transitional material. It's less combustible than North Dakota, Texas crudes. It's lower in sulfur and metals, acidity, which means less energy in the refining process. And it's a critical transition material for high-end lubes, heat pumps, wax motors, heaters, coolants. And we certainly, all of us have Ukraine in mind, and we certainly are praying for that situation over there. But it's a sound energy policy that will help us create national and worldwide security. And Utah certainly can play an important part in that. And so today, again, I wanted to educate you and make you aware of what's happening in the eastern part of the state, and ask for your support with Highway 191. On behalf of our CEO and our entire executive team, I'd like to thank you for the time today. Thank you.
Cameron, yesterday when I went over Indian Canyon, I passed 4 of the trucks going up and 2 were coming back. You have 900 tankers currently in your, these are rail cars. How many barrels will each car hold? How many barrels? What do you put in each?
Yeah, I didn't bring my notes on that, but I can find out for you.
Because a truck going over will haul what, 280?
275 barrels on average.
275.
Some of the supers do about 300.
And that'll take what, about 3 of those trucks to fill a tanker? Is that what?
About 3. Yep.
3.
It's about 900.
And the tank cars are, because once this oil cools down to what, 115 degrees?
About 100.
About 100. If you're familiar with shoe polish, that's what it becomes. It's a Vaseline. It's really like Vaseline. If I'm what I've seen.
Kind of like shoe polish.
So you load it into the trails. Eventually, it'll solidify. Are they steam generated to liquefy that again? How do you get them off? How do you get it out of the grain cars?
The refineries down the Gulf Coast have a process for that. Our Salt Lake refiners do as well. They steam it out when it solidifies. But we've had pretty good luck keeping. We have our tanks in the field are heated to 165 degrees, and so when the trucks pick it up, they're able to take it, to Salt Lake or down to the rail, and it stays pretty liquid.
Insulated
And,
traders.
yeah, and in the summertime especially, we do a lot better because it stays pretty warm. But in the wintertime, we sometimes have to steam it out.
So how many is a unit train that you send down to? How many cars do you need to send to Louisiana, Texas, wherever you're going?
Yeah, that's probably one of our marketing questions, but I'll find that out.
Because my understanding is you're limited to about a 95 unit train to get over.
Yeah, sounds
price in that down through there. So I know the rigs are working.
Yep.
I can see those, and I know the fracking is going on. Do you think that, of course, one of the guides that's pushed the rail is you've got to have, they're not going to build the railroad, then wait for 2-3 years to have enough to justify moving it out. So in a 3-year period, if the rail gets built at the speed that they think they're going to, which I doubt, just because of labor, materials, all of those things, we're going to be seeing a lot of use on 191 South.
Yeah, certainly, we support the rail project. We think, they've had great success getting permitted. I think they're 1 permit away from being permitted to construct a project. But the challenge that they face right now is that we don't have the resource to support what they're trying to do until we grow this export market. And once we do that, then we can, commit. But in the meantime, we've got to kind of go down 2 parallel paths. We've got to create that export market. The road's going to be certainly important in helping us achieve that. And then at such time that we have, 100 to 180,000 incremental barrels above Salt Lake City, then we can make a project like that make real sense.
Okay, well, thank you for your work and for your investment. I know that you had a meeting with Scott Anderson, and I think that went well.
Went very well. Thank you for making that introduction.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're in the business section of our agenda, item 5, consent agenda items. You have the podium.
I don't know if anyone else wanted to public comment. Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
did we ask if anyone else wanted to make public comment?
Oh, sorry.
That's here, I don't know. I may have missed that.
I'm sorry, yes, my fault. If there's anyone from the public here, would you like to come forward and introduce yourself, or if you have anything to say, please? Seeing none, we'll just go forward with the item. Thank you. Thank you, Congress.
Good morning, my name is Ivan Hartle, I'm the Director of Financial Programming. For consent agenda item today, as is typical, we have the previous month's commission meeting minutes, as well as a list of projects that have either been awarded, have been identified to remove budget amounts, or the project is in closeout process and funding is available to be removed so that we can reprogram. Included in the packet is the January 21st, 2022 commission meeting from Draper City. Our comments, actions taken. And then also again included is a list of 3 projects for this month, totaling a little under $3.3 million. One is adjusting to an award, one is a budget recovery, and one is a project closeout. Back to our fact sheet. Our request today is a motion to approve the adjustments to the projects in the included table and approve the January 21, 2022 Utah Transportation Commission meeting minutes as detailed.
Mr. Commissioner, our Commissioner Nagati, our chair, I move for approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve the agenda on the second. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We continue with item number 6, Ivan. Go ahead, please.
Item number 6 in our programming materials. Our first item, 6A-1, is the Devil's Slide Bridge near Croydon. It's a funding addition to this project. This project was originally scheduled to be bid in 2020, but due to coordination issues, the project was delayed until fall of 2021, at which time all bids came in high due to the tight work constraints, winter work window, inflation, and the remote location. Project team has updated the bid items and have reduced risk items identified. If approved, the project would be bid again with the additional funding. Original project value just a little over 4.1 million with a requested increase of 2.5 million. Located here on our map, Croydon, right here in the center of the screen off of I-84. Showing the bridge replacement.
Yeah, it's going through a bridge.
Nice spin off.
Not the railroad. Our request today is a motion to approve adding funds to the Devil's Slide Bridge project as detailed.
I so move. We gotta keep it sliding.
Don't change your name from the devil to something else.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and second. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6A-1 is approved.
Thank you. 6A-2, is a funding addition. It's a funding transfer between two projects, the I-15 Farmington to Salt Lake City EIS from the I-15 reconstruction Farmington to Salt Lake City. It's transferring $6 million from the reconstruction project to the EIS project. The I-15 Farmington to Salt Lake City EIS is currently underway in order to accommodate early right-of-way acquisition, utility investigation, and environmental activities. The project team proposes to move $6 million from the construction pin of this same project and move the money into the environmental pin. Located here on our map. The request today is a motion to approve transferring scope and funding between the I-15 Farmington to Salt Lake City EIS project and the I-15 reconstruction Farmington to Salt Lake City as project as detailed.
Go ahead.
By transferring the funds from construction to the EIS planning, does that hamper the construction project at all, or good, or are you gonna have to come back and ask for more money for that?
I might phone a friend on this one.
I love phoning friends.
The environmental, Tiffany's here. Our environmental project, we funded that before this project. We knew this project was going to be funded as quickly as it was. So now we have access to that construction fund. So some of those activities we are moving in coordination with the environmental project, like the early right-of-way acquisition. Some of those activities that we probably would not have done had the reconstruction project already not been funded. Tiffany, what did I miss?
Hi, Tiffany.
Hi. You have to come to the podium.
We haven't really met you yet.
Yeah, introduce yourself, please.
My name is Tiffany Bogak, and I am the project manager on this environmental study. And I haven't hit the nail on the head. We are advancing some right-of-way investigation and utility investigations. So those are items that we would do in the construction phase. We're just moving them earlier on so that we can mitigate some of those risks early.
Do you know where section is gonna require right-of-ways? Do we know that already?
We don't. These fundings is really just to get our consultants on board to go investigate that. We do not know what right-of-way we need.
Thank you. Any other question from Tiffany before she runs away?
Tiffany is managing the largest project that you've approved in the entire state. No pressure to. So you'll probably have the opportunity to meet Tiffany more.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would move for approval.
I'd second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, item number 2. Any other questions, concerns, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6A-2 is approved.
Thank you. 6A-3, I-84 East Snowville to Hansel Valley. It's a funding addition. The current project value is $1 million. The proposed increase is 5.4. The original project scope was to crack seal the existing asphalt pavement to prevent water from delaminating the bonded wearing course from the underlying concrete pavement. Through this winter, the asphalt pavement has deteriorated faster than anticipated, and the proposed scope would remove the asphalt pavement and replace it with located here on our map. Our request today is a motion to approve adding funds to the I-84 East Snowville to Hansel Valley project in detail.
Yes.
I just wanted to comment in support of this. This is an important trucking route through northern Box Elder County into Idaho. And so I just wanted to stress the importance of this.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask, is this a good example of maintenance versus not maintenance? It just, it's such a big jump
It is.
You know, in such a short amount of time, and I'm just asking the question if we
It
missed
is
some
the
maintenance we
difference
should have done.
Between adding the crack seal, I think the timing became part of the issue.
And typically, we'd like our philosophy, Rob White, thank you, Carlos. Rob White, Region One Director, I was so excited to answer that. So usually our philosophy is good roads cost less. We're gonna try and go do treatments before it comes into this condition. This condition is one that we don't like to be in, and so it's smarter to go in ahead of time and keep our roads in good condition, so you don't have these type of emergency fixes. The plan was originally just to go crack seal and hold that together until we could get in and reconstruct, which is gonna be a few years down the road. Unfortunately, that plan fell apart literally and figuratively here this winter when we started getting some snow in December. So we had to take some quick action to get in here and change the project scope, and then get out there and take off what's there and put down new asphalt that's going to last us now until we can reconstruct. But yes, you're absolutely right, Commissioner Buckner, that it's better to do the preservation treatments rather than this type of treatment or a reconstruction. So.
So Rob, how many inches of asphalt you're gonna put on this road because of the?
There's gonna be 2 inches of bonded wearing course, which is an asphalt that is really good at staying stuck to what's below it, for lack of a better term. And this, years ago, this was covered with, the concrete pavement was covered with asphalt. And this was back in, I think, 2006 or 7, so it's been many years ago. And so what we're finding now is that's coming up, and we were trying to prevent that by keeping the water out of it. The water is the worst enemy of pavement. If you get water in there, you get freeze-thaw cycles, and then it bonds, and that's where you see the potholes. And so we were trying to prevent this with the initial project, but now that has moved to a more serious fix.
Thank you.
Is there a motion pending? I'm sorry to make a motion. I'd love to maintain. That's great.
All right, there's a motion.
I'll second the motion.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 6A-3 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. 6A-4, SR 39, Ogden Canyon Barrier Upgrade. It's a new project, $750,000 funded out of the Transportation Solutions Program. The barrier in some sections of the Ogden Canyon is installed near the top of the riverbank. When the barrier is hit by vehicles, those sections of barrier often end up in the Ogden River. The crash data shows that there have been 108 roadway departure crashes in this narrow winding canyon over the past 5 years. UDOT recently replaced a bridge in the canyon and also replaced some of the barrier with cast-in-place barrier. This project will continue to replace existing barrier in specific locations with this new cast-in-place barrier.
That's a heck of a lot of crashes in one spot.
In the canyon.
Throughout the entire canyon, not
Through
just
the
this
canyon, yeah.
this location. Yeah.
You can see how close the barrier is along the river. Our request today is a motion to approve adding the Ogden Canyon Barrier Upgrade Project to the current stiffness detail.
Are we gonna add any buffer between barriers and the roadways, or it's gonna be the same location?
At least you're on the front row, Rob.
I knew I was gonna get questions, so I sat on the front row. So what was your question again?
The new barrier you're gonna put in is gonna have a buffer between that and the roadways, the shoulders, or it's gonna be the same exact location?
It's gonna be about the same. The problem, as you can see looking at this photo, is that is a very narrow canyon. And the plan is to try to, the barrier is going to be a taller barrier, and it's going to have a better foundation. Part of the problem here is there's not a really good foundation there, and so we're improving that foundation. So it's good, and it's also going to be cast in place barrier, and so when it's hit, it's not meant to give. It's going to stay put, and as opposed to this barrier, which is precast barrier, which you see a lot of places. It's called New Jersey style, or there's some other types of other names for it, but it's meant to give a little bit. And that's how it reacts to vehicles hitting it and keeps them supposedly on the road. The only problem is that when it falls down in the river, that doesn't do a very good job. So the purpose here is to put something that's more solid so that it stays when it's hit.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion.
Yes, there's a motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Item 6A-4 is approved.
Thank you. 6A-5, SR 68, 6200 South to 215 on Redwood Road. It's a funding addition from the Transportation Solutions Program in Region 2. The scope of the SR 68, 6200 South to 215 project is to add an additional northbound lane on Redwood from 6200 South to I-215. Add dual lanes to the eastbound and westbound on-ramps and construct a northbound displaced left turn continuous flow intersection, or CFI. During the design phase of this project, it was discovered that the drainage in the area needed to be upgraded to accommodate the widening of the roadway and relieving the demand of the existing city system. Additional funds are also needed to address the increased costs of right-of-way, utilities, and material costs caused by inflation. The additional funds will be paid using Region 2's Transportation Solutions Fund. Located here on the map, our next image is kind of long, so it doesn't display well on the screen, but it focuses right here on the intersection of Benyon Boulevard and SR 68. It's doing is showing where the existing roadway is and what the new design would look like.
So I needed an interpreter when I was trying to study this map. I don't know if I need to go to Carmen School or some other school to. So did the scope of this project change or has this always been the plan? Hi, Brad, front row, come on.
He was ready. I'm Brad Palmer, I'm the Region 2 Program Manager. So the scope of the project hasn't changed since we first had it approved.
Okay.
What happened was when we got into design and into the details of the subsurface work in the utilities and also the storm drain system, it was discovered that the additional capacity needed by widening the roadway was more than the current system allowed. And so the way the drainage works right now is we share the drainage system with Taylorsville City. And the pipe network in the area just wasn't as comprehensive as it needs to be. The capacity that we're creating by this project is much more than the current system can allow, and so we need to upgrade that system. We just didn't realize that at the beginning of the project.
Relative to the picture, can you just explain, I needed an interpreter. As I look at this picture on the left-hand side of the map on the upper part, there are little arrows on the left. What does that mean? Sorry, it's this part. What is that?
Oh, okay. Those are chevrons. So as we're widening to the right side of the picture, if you look on the south on the bottom part of the intersection.
Maybe use the mouse. Would the mouse help?
See, okay, you can see the mouse up there.
Yeah, that helps.
So where Ivan was explaining that continuous flow intersection or a CFI, that's where we take the left turns over on the opposite side of the roadway from where it would traditionally be and cross. Because we move that left turn pocket over on this side of the roadway, to make the rest of the roadway align properly for these through movements up here, we have to shift the entire roadway. And so these arrows or chevrons through this section is a non-driving portion of the roadway that allows us to align the north side of the road with the south side of the road because of that left turn pocket.
Okay, so that is just unused space.
Unused space, correct.
Okay, thank you. Interpreter, I appreciate it. Kept me awake.
Thank you, Brad.
Usually we put people to sleep, so.
Our request today is a motion to add funds to the SR 68, 6200 South to I-215 project as detailed.
Since you get your hands.
Since I got, Mr. Chair, since I now understand the chevrons,
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this project.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second it.
There's a second on the motion. Any other questions from Ida or Brad? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6A-5 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item, 6A-6, US 89 215 to 3000 South, a funding addition through their Transportation Solutions Program. Current project value 7.1 with a request of 1.1. The scope of the US 89 I-215 to 3000 South project is to perform a pavement preservation of a 1-inch rotomill and with a 1-inch open graded course surface, replace substandard ADA pedestrian ramps, and replaced raised median at the intersection of Vine Street to extend the left turn pocket. Recently, bids were opened with the low bid coming in 18% over the engineer's estimate. The main items that came in high included mobilization, the traffic control, and material costs due to inflation on the open graded course surface. Region 2 would like to award the project so construction can begin this spring. Located here on our map. Our request today is a motion to add funds to the US 89 I-215 to 3000 South project as detailed.
What is the amount we're adding?
1.1 million.
I would move that we approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Law, so that will be your second, if you don't mind. Is that okay, Commissioner Van Tassel?
Pardon?
Commissioner Law had the first motion. Is that okay? You second it?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
I drive that twice a day. That's certainly supported. Certainly supported.
Comment?
I'll get you here safely.
All
Yes.
in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6A-6 is approved.
Thank you. 6A-7, the Provo River Parkway. This is the comment from Mayor Lucy earlier. It's a request to add funds. The current project value is 15 million. You see the split between the UDOT and then the Mountain Line Association of Governments funding. The requested add with the proposed value 34.4 million. During the design and constructability review of the project, it was determined that the construction of the parkway would be much more expensive than originally anticipated. The largest factor in the cost increase is the need for significantly more retaining walls than anticipated and constructability issues due to the tight canyon setting. Wasatch County and MAG wish to contribute to the betterment to provide a railroad structure over the Provo River and the railroad double tracking in Vivian Park to decrease access impacts to South Fork Canyon. The Parkway is a highly used facility. Usage statistics for the year 2020 on the lower portion are as follows. For the year total, 350,000 with a peak of 3.4 and a daily average just under 1,000. This item was approved by the Mountain Land Association of Governments, MPO TAC, on January 24th, 2022, and the Regional Planning Committee on February 3rd, 2022, and the Wasatch County Commission on February 2nd, 2022. Here on our map, along in the Provo Canyon. Also included is a couple of design images, show what the Vivian Park area would look like, proposed area would look like. Also where the existing trail segment ends right here outside Vivian Park and the new trail segment would begin. So it shows the narrow section of of where the trail would be placed. I think this is a Sunday picture and a Monday picture, I think.
This is Mayor Kafusi's.
Yes.
Yes. This is the image of how it would be constructed, the additional work that would need to be done. Included in the packet also detailed the project estimate with some of the betterment work that is being requested. Our request today is a motion to approve adding funding to the Provo River Parkway project as detailed.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before I make a motion, I've been up there a lot and looked at this. Rob and his staff have taken me up there multiple times to get out and walk this. I know this has been going, Terry knows for 20, Carl's 20, 30 years, whatever, a long time. And it's just not a safe way right now to get those cyclists and walkers, especially cyclists. They come down from Wasatch, those great trails, they go up. They have to go out on Provo Canyon basically, which isn't safe to have them ride. And so I see this not only fixing it as a safety issue finally, I know it's a lot of money, but it would benefit a lot of people that use these great trail systems. This is one big, missing link that we have. And that where it shows the retaining walls, it's just kind of no way you can get around that, but do that type of work so anyway, I'd move for approval of this project, have a look at it a lot with Rob and this group up here.
Second that.
Second. And if I understand right, Carlos was the region director?
That was a long time ago. Yeah, you.
And did they understand also that we own the railroad, that the UDOT owns the rail portion of that location?
We own the rail bed.
So it's a good project. We have motion and a second. Any other question? Go ahead, Donna.
So we've already approved a good bunch of money, and I know that we have partners in this project. So would I understand correctly that the additional funds are because the project previously approved really didn't have all the stuff that it needed to have? I guess I'm just trying, because it's a lot more money. And I realize we've been doing this for a long time, and good thing for sitting on the front row.
We can see, and Rob will finish my statement, the different funding that's being requested, the Transportation Investment Fund, Mountain Land Association of Governments, and then the betterment portion, Rob talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rob Clayton, Region 3 Director. If I understand your question, Commissioner, you're wondering why the dramatic increase over
That's
the.
my job here.
Yeah, yeah, and well, that's something that we struggled with, before we decided to ask for this money. And it's a fair question and a fair criticism. Included in this is the pressures that all the projects are feeling with inflation, but this is much more than that. And really what I'd say is we don't build this kind of project very often, and our consultants don't build this kind of project very often. And we just, as we were estimating it originally, we just didn't do a very good job of estimating it. And as we got further along into the process and we have a constructability review where we have contractors that look at it from our side. And they identified some significant issues such as, we needed more walls than we had originally estimated. They have to put what's called coffer dams to hold the water back so that the slopes can be constructed properly and the wall can be constructed properly. And all of that has to happen in that constrained space. So they have to touch all the materials twice. They stage it at an area and then they have to bring it down along that skinny access road. And it just makes it more difficult to construct. And so, it just, the original estimate wasn't very good.
Thank you for that explanation.
Does
Very
this-
candid explanation, very honest explanation.
Thanks, Rob. What does the term betterment mean in the amount? Is Is that a different category? I'm just curious.
It indicates an improvement that the project, that wasn't necessary for the project, but it's in the project area and it makes sense to construct it, but the partners fund that improvement.
This will improve bike safety a great deal, correct?
It will significantly. Yeah, as Commissioner Evans indicated, the bicyclists now have to be up on the highway.
So that's the big thing that I see this doing, is this improve safety for bicycles. As that Heber Valley continues to grow, we might see people bicycling that more than we've done in the past, if there's a way to do it.
Absolutely.
Well, this creates what about the extent of this trail system? Now this.
Yeah, so this segment of the trail that remains to be constructed is actually part of a loop that will connect all the way up into Wasatch County, down through Harley's Canyon, and get all the way down, and then even all the way up into Ogden, right? Yeah, so.
And then down to the Jordan River Trail system as well.
Yeah.
So the tour of Utah could be using this.
This won't be used by the tour of Utah. It's too small. They need a roadway width for that.
They will in Provo Canyon.
Yeah. I mean, this segment is the Mayor Kafusi referred to it as tricky. It's the most challenging segment that's left. And that's why it's so expensive. It's just, we did all the easy parts and now we're left with this. And that's the question before you this morning.
You know, and there's, for years, local legislators have all had comments. Carlos had business with them, Terry's had business with them, I've had business with multiple, and I know they have an interest in this as well, so.
Question?
Yeah, I think.
Chair, I was thinking this before this extended discussion, but it is even more relevant given the discussion. But I think that this particular canyon is of real significance to the state. And part of why I say that is that a third of our growth last year came from Utah County. So, it's a growth magnet. And from 2010 to 2020, Wasatch County, where Heber is, grew by almost 50%. And the linkage between those two areas for life quality reasons, for economic reasons is super important. And I think this is exactly what UDOT should be doing, is in a really important place like this, investing in things that we care about. Safety, life quality, efficiency, the economy. So it's a lot of money, but it's what we need to do.
Thank you, Ralph.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
6/7 is approved. Thank you. Congratulations, Mayor. I hope this is a good gift after the dentist work for you.
Carlos, that's long.
Item 6A-8 is a funding and scope transfer similar to the one we before. This is on US 89 Birdseye to US 6 Thistle. The funding scope change is $800,000, changing from the Region 3's 2022 region-wide drainage improvement project. The project scope of the US 89 Birdseye to Thistle is to preserve the life of the pavement by placing a chip seal on the roadway. A culvert located within the project limits was damaged on July 26, 2019 by a mudslide that ran over US 89 near Birdseye. Region 3 proposes to add $800,000 to the currently programmed Transportation Solutions Fund from PIN 19143, which is the drainage improvement project, to replace the culvert and adding protected devices to maintain the channel's integrity. Combining the scope will allow the pavement preservation project to seal any joints in the asphalt caused by the reconstruction of the culvert.
This flood was partially because of a fire in the area too, wasn't it? I believe so. I went through that area just after that fire and it was a mess. And this will fix it so future, because there could always be another flash flood or something in that area. This one is a preventative for the future as well, correct?
So located in our map, the culvert location on the south end of the current project segment. Matt, would you like to talk?
I was anxious to talk about.
I'm Matt Parker, the Region 3 Program Manager. The answer to that question is yes, because we're planning to armor some of that channel that comes into the culvert, so to prevent that from happening again.
Thank you.
If you're ready for a motion, Mr. Chair,
Let's see, you ready for it?
I would make a motion that we approve.
Second that.
So motion and second.
I'm grateful we have a designated driver on the commission who's been on every single one of these roads.
I had to use my map a
Well,
lot
not
today.
everything.
Yeah, you got the miles on the pickup to prove it, so.
All in favor of this project, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6A-8 is approved.
You know, in the state of Utah, we spend a lot of money on fighting fire, and we've done really well. But the aftermath is usually more expensive than the fire. For individual property owners as well as for us.
Yep, thank you for recognizing that. It changes the entire drainage pattern. We see increased landslides, so thank you for recognizing that.
A few years ago, we had the Brian Hinn fires and the year after flood. Came all the way to I-15, closed I-15 for
Sometimes within months.
6A-9 is a US 189 SR 113 Charleston to US 40 Heber project. It's a funding and scope addition from the Transportation Solutions Program. The project scope is a high-volume pavement preservation to be constructed in 2023. The region has identified the intersections of Southfield Road and 2400 South with US 40 to be in need of right turn deceleration lanes. Both of these intersections are located within the project limits. The need arises due to turning traffic having to turn out of the through lane in the 60-mile-an-hour zone. Southfield Road has a considerable amount of vehicles pulling trailers turning off of US 189 due to the Wasatch County events that are being located on it. 2400 South currently does not intersect US 189 at a 90-degree angle, which will be corrected with this additional scope. These funds will provide deceleration lanes off of the US 189 onto Southfield Road and the 2400 South improving safety on this corridor. So the project limit shown here on the map. Zooming in to show the project location changes. And you can see from the map, let me just point from the map right here along the airport is where we'll see the location. So improvements are right here, Southfield Road and 2400 South. And the increase for the pavement deceleration lanes, right-hand turn lane, both 2400 South and then also the Southfield Road intersection.
I have driven on this road multiple times and it's needed. Those corrections are needed very much.
It is, they remember they had that like this fiery flaming crashes there, just
It is
because
time.
just all along there. And so anything we can do that whole stretch to improve. In fact, if you're done, I'd move for approval. This-
Second.
Okay,
This needs to be done.
motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6A-9 is approved. Thank you.
6A-10, the UTA Provo Rail Pedestrian Bridge. It's a funding addition. The current project value is a little under $5 million. You can see the partnership of UDOT, UTA, and Mountain Light Association of Governments. The project scope is to construct a pedestrian bridge over 600 South in Provo and the Union Pacific Railroad and the UTA front runner tracks in the vicinity of 100 West. This would allow pedestrians to cross the tracks while trains are present. Since the original estimate, a roof over the structure and elevators at each end have been added to the scope. As the project is ready to be constructed, the estimate has been updated, showing the $2.6 million increase from the original estimate. The project partners have identified funding from multiple sources prior to the request from UDOT. This item was approved by the Mountain Land Association of Governments, MPO TAC, on January 24th, and the Regional Planning Committee on February 3rd of 2022.
That's the location we visited as a commission.
It is right by the
Overpass,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's right next to it there.
I believe this just makes it a better project. And finishes what should be done.
There's a lot of low-income housing, they need that.
I move for approval.
Nobody's waiting for items to ask anymore.
Oh,
That's
I'm
all
sorry.
right.
I just-
No, that's okay.
Seeing is believing. I saw it, I believe. I'm a cougar.
The guy's getting paid for this, so maybe just do his job.
Okay, yes, you're right.
Just kidding.
And I still move for approval.
Fair enough, thank you.
I'll second that if you need one.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 6A-10 is approved. We're right in the midpoint of the meetings. Anybody wants to have a 5 minute break? Yes. Keep going? Okay. I'm going forward then. Because 12 the commission is gonna be leaving with about 11:30, so. Number 11, go ahead, please.
So 6A11, we have two parts to it. The first one is an information only. It's introducing new funding that was received from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. That provides an opportunity for funding and rehabilitation to replacement of existing bridges to address deficiencies due to aging and deterioration. This 5-year program from fiscal year 22 to fiscal year 26 provides Utah with a minimum of $45 million each year. Federal funding has already been apportioned to Utah for this year for this program. There are currently 41 poor condition and 137 load posted, 19 of which are both in poor condition and load posted, locally owned bridges listed on the National Bridge Inventory. A load posted bridge is a bridge that has load restrictions due to the original design or current condition. The department's goal is to address as many of these locally owned bridges as possible. To address the funding currently available, the department recommends reviewing the bridge formula program for the fiscal year 22 funds in this commission meeting. The future year funds will be included in the upcoming programming workshops of March and April of 2022. As this is a new program and due to the availability of the funding, the department proposes to manage this program by presenting a bridge list to the commission for review and approval. Through the course of managing the program, bridges may be combined together for construction advertising, taking advantage of advertising benefits like bridge type or locations. During the subsequent programming workshop, the Structures Division will report to the commission the bridges that have been addressed in the previous year and the expectation for the upcoming year. This time, I'd like to turn the time over to Cheryl Hirsch-Simmons to talk through the this program. There. You okay doing the PDF? Yeah. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Cheryl Hirsch, and I'm with the UDOT Structures Division. And I just want to kind of walk you through a little bit more about the program and how we're intending to use it so that we can answer any questions that you might have.
Just scroll.
Okay, so just a reminder, this is a 5-year reauthorization from Federal Highway for highway safety, transit, and rail for 22 through 26. And the bridge formula program is eligible for highway bridge replacement, rehabilitation, and preservation of any NBI, so anything that's on the National Bridge Inventory bridge. And the Utah's minimum apportionment for the next 5 years is $45 million a year, with 3 years after the apportionment till it is lapsed. Some of the limitations and encouragement from the law are that states are encouraged to focus on bridges first classified in poor condition. A minimum of 15% of the funds are to be used for locally owned off-system bridges, so bridges not on the national highway system. When they are used on locally owned off-system bridges, there is no federal match. So normally there's a almost 7% match that the locals are required, and this gives them 100%.
Cheryl, why would some of our bridges not be on that directory? They're just smaller or later built, or I'm just curious.
Sorry,
Why is some
Why would
bridges-
some of our bridges be off-system bridges?
it has to do with the roadway classification.
The
And
roadway.
so like, yeah, minor rule, there's 2 different classifications of roadway, and those do not apply
Right.
for an on system.
So the smaller ones are on the off-system, right?
For the most part, these are all small
Okay.
bridges. Yeah, but that's not the requirement because we do have some small bridges on system.
Got it.
So,
Okay, just curious. Thanks.
sure. Part of this is you can accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists on the bridge replacements when it meets certain conditions. So even if there isn't one, if it's tying into another system, there is some opportunities to include sort of active transportation with this. And then it's also eligible for a nominal amount of approach work. So basically to tie the new bridge into the existing roadway. This is a map. What we did here is provided a top 50 priority by each owner. So local owned, state-owned bridges, local owned on and off system bridges. And we did by the colors, the red color is poor condition and the gold color is fair condition. What we want to recognize here is that some of those fair condition bridges have been in that state for a long time. We're expecting them to drop to poor in the near future. So this kind of reflects the bridges we would like to address over the 5 years, or as many of these as we can over the next 5 years. And you see that it's all over the state in all different areas. So just some background on the inventory to give you some context. So right now, the left side is the bridge system by count. So we have it divided by the different ownerships, state, local, on and off system. And by count, 66% are state owned, and then 13% are on system and 21% are off system bridges. But then when you look at it by deck area, so that's where that context that these are smaller bridges comes into play. 87% are state owned, that's by the size, and then a smaller portion are the local owned. Now looking at condition in that same way, first by count, we have a total of almost 2,000 state-owned bridges, 400 on system and 640 off system bridges. And you can see that by count, there's a significant portion of the local off system bridges that are in poor condition. This is what we're hoping to address. So another way to look at it again is by deck area. So again, by the size. Sorry, I don't know what happened on my screen. By the size of them, that's about 2.8% of the decks on the off system, and 1.8% are in poor condition. So again, looking at it specifically based on poor condition, by count, you can see that almost 50% of the bridges by count on the off system are in poor condition. And then by deck area, that's about 18%. So just want to go over some of our goals. We would like to try to rehabilitate or replace all the bridges currently rated as poor condition. We want to try to address as many low load restricted bridges as possible. So we have a lot of bridges that are only limited to 3 tons, which is the lowest posting before we have to close a structure. We have some at 10 tons, and so we want to try to hit as many of those as possible as well. So we're going to need to prioritize. First, we're going to look at poor condition bridges. Then we're gonna look at load restrictions, and then we're gonna also look at, so currently, the only funding source for the off-system bridges is through the Joint Highway Commission. And up until now, it's only about 1.8 million a year. So we're gonna take a look at what applications have already been put in by owners for those, and we're gonna try to bring those into that program. And actually, the next agenda item is a couple of those bridges.
Can I ask a question? When you use the,
Absolutely.
sorry, Mr. Chair, when you use the term owners, are you referring likely to municipalities?
Towns, counties.
Okay, thank you.
And so we'll look at previous funding applications, owners, those local owners who have already looked for ways to handle their bridges, but just, haven't been addressed yet because there hasn't been enough funding. And then we're gonna prioritize based on if we can bundle by bridge and type and location. We're gonna have significant outreach with those owners to make sure that we're partnering with them to make sure that we're meeting their needs. We have the list because we do all the routine inspections, so we know the condition, we know which bridges are posted. We're able to do that list, and with that, we're gonna work with the owners to talk to them when's the best time, how bundling works, what improvements, within the context of this program are allowed that we can handle. And then, so for the off-system, I mentioned there is no local match, but for any on-system bridges, there still is a required match by that local owner. And so we need to work with them that we put it at the right time in the program, that it meets with their financial ability to meet that. So just a quick flow chart of what we're looking at doing. I mean, this was pulled together pretty quickly, but from a high level, we're gonna kind of look at the condition. And then obviously if it's both has a poor condition and it's load posted, that'll be a higher priority, and so on and so forth. So that's really all I have.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. Today, we're talking about a bridge in Elwood Town. And I wonder, does it qualify in this program?
Yes, it would be on the program. The communication, which I'm sure will come up later, is the fact that they really need to get this done now. It's over a canal so the work can only be done during a certain time of year. They want to get the bridge is currently closed. They want to try to get it done this season while it's closed. We can't get it through this program fast enough for them.
So could they retroactively ask for reimbursement of funding in the program, or?
Probably not because of the way we are prioritizing and the way that the standards that they're going to use to achieve this will probably not be in line with what we want to do. It'll be perfectly safe, but it won't meet all the requirements that going through our system will to meet. So, but they do have 3 other bridges that will qualify.
Huh, good news. Thank you.
That's cool that you know that.
Thank you.
Any other questions from Cheryl?
Did anybody here have any idea how many bridges we had in the state of Utah? It's amazing.
Carmen did.
We're a relatively low bridge count state.
Really? Amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks for keeping an eye out.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Cheryl. This was for information only, so we don't really have any vote on this.
That went further than I thought.
Yeah, we're that's going down the road.
It's going across one of those highways.
Yeah. That is the clear.
With that presentation about the bridge formula program, our next item, 6A11B, is a list of 3 projects that we would like to include immediately into the bridge formula program to be funded and begin using. The first item, the bridge formula program management, and then the second 2 item is our bridge replacements that have previously already been approved by the commission at the recommendation of the Joint Highway Program. So part of the bridge formula program, the funding that's exciting, our off-system bridge funding that we've received up to this point has been around $2.5 million that the Joint Highway Committee has recommended projects back to the commission to fund. So that you can see the difference of how much money that this will help those off-system structures. The department proposes to fund a project that would be used to hire a consulting firm to perform program management services. This would include assisting in administering, prioritizing, coordinating, preparing, designing, reviewing, managing, and delivering projects associated with the Bridge Formula Program. And that is a $5 million bridge management program. The department also proposes transferring 2 existing projects to the Bridge Formula Program that are currently funded from the off-system bridge program. These bridges qualify for the Bridge Formula Program requirements and will allow the current funding to be returned back to be reprogrammed. The current funding being the Joint Highway. There's a Joint Highway Committee funding for the recommendation funding, as well as the local match will also be provided back to the locals. Located here on the maps, the 2 structures that we've discussed that are currently funded that are being proposed to move. Maybe creek structure. Pictures of the 2, the Navajo Bridge, Trail Bridge.
Every time we see these photographs, I think we've got a pretty good photographer to make things look so bad, so. No, we're supportive, yeah. Oh, that does look pretty bad. I'm glad.
Commissioner Kramer, the lens doesn't lie.
That's right. I just don't want our esteemed senator to be driving on any of those roads on his designated driver responsibilities. So I move for approval. I think that's a great way to take advantage of God. We're doing it as quickly as possible and support it.
And second,
Okay. Please, go ahead, question.
Oh, yeah, I know I've had a lot of questions today. $5 million is a lot for a consultant. What kind of period of time are we looking at? Why would we choose to outsource this versus having people help Cheryl through this prioritization process?
My good friend Cheryl didn't move too far from the podium. So
That just feels like, I mean, I see this every day with the work I'm doing up on the Hill. That's a lot of money.
Yes, so this program management is going to extend for probably about an 8-year period. So we have 5 years of funding and then 3 years until it's expended. They will also be, a portion of them will be delivering projects as well. So we're going to have a bridge list and they're going to help figure out how to bundle it. And then portions of that will go to them to deliver as well as additional consultants. But what I want you to recognize is this is basically the size of our current program. Right now, up until 2 years ago, we were at 48 million for our entire program. 30 million of it went to rehab and replacement. This is 45 million a year for each of the next years. So we think that this money, we'll be able to use it to not only more efficiently use the money so that every dollar possible goes to the bridges, by strategically looking at the best way to bundle them, to gain efficiencies in design as well as construction. We think this investment will be well worth what we get in the end for having a thought out process.
Mr. Chairman,
Can I add to that?
Yes,
I mean,
please.
we're always excited when we talk about all the money that the department gets, but all the money that we've received over the years goes to just projects.
Yeah.
We have less people than we had in the 1990s when our program was under $200 million a year. Right now, we're running at about $1.5 billion a year in construction projects, and we have less people. And so while we would like to be able to say we'd like to add people to do the work, we think we can do it very effectively and efficiently. Money can't cross line items. And so we do not have the ability to add people. So this is really our only way in which to deliver these programs.
That, again, is a very helpful explanation. So this 5 million will cover the project through an estimated 8 years.
We don't know. We don't know that.
Okay.
But we'll take it as far as we can.
And does this 5 million come from the federal monies that you just described? Okay,
Yes,
so
it'll come from the program.
and then is there an average cost? I know with all the bridges that we have, this is probably just really the most stupid question I could ask today, but is there an average cost of a bridge?
For these, we're estimating around 2 million for the average.
Okay.
But we hope to get some efficiencies and then bring that cost down by bundling. So it will, it'll depend, utilities, if there's
Sure.
right of way needs, stuff like that. But for the most part, based on the size of these, that's what we anticipate.
Okay, that's very cool, thank you.
Any other questions?
I had a related one. When you get consulting help with this, does the expertise exist within Utah to have it? You don't have to go out of state for the consulting help here.
There is expertise, but there isn't enough consultants here.
Oh, we could get a new job.
Yeah, there's the expertise to do it, there's just not, same argument is, there's just not enough. It's a very big program, and we just don't have enough people.
All the more reason for
And not young
graduating more
engineers.
engineers.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's
It's
right.
it's a nationwide issue.
Got it. Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of item 11-B, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So 6A-11-B is approved.
Thank you. Staying with the structures and bridge theme, 6A12, the bridge replacement at Rockport Reservoir. This is a funding increase. Current project value of $4 million with an requested increase amount of $2 million. The scope of the project is to replace structure 0C288 and the superstructure on 0C191R. The superstructure of the bridge is the main structure supporting the span and distributes the load to the bridge footings and foundations. The bridges are located at the south end of Rockport Reservoir in Summit County. An updated project estimate based on similar projects that have been completed or bid recently shows the project needs additional funding. The estimate shows funding needed is both in material and labor costs on this project. Located here on the map on the south end of Rockport Reservoir. A request today is a motion to approve adding funds to the bridge replacements at Rockport Reservoir project as detailed.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
There are 2 bridges.
There's 2.
Yeah. I'd second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6A-20.
6A-13, the Henryville Bridge replacements have also a funding increase, currently funded at $11 million with a $4.5 million request. And 19-476, the Henryville Bridge replacements will replace structures 0C284 and 0C322. The bridges are located on SR12 near Henryville in Garfield County. This project needs additional funding due to fluctuating material costs and labor shortage. The proposed increase is based on similar projects that have been completed or bid recently. Located here near Henryville. Our request today is a motion to approve the Henryville Bridge replacements funding addition as detailed.
Move for approval, and then I have a question.
Go ahead, ask the question.
I'll second.
With these increases in labor, materials, we're hoping to get this started in time to get it within this to not add again. I mean, I'm sure we all have the same question, and we keep doing it because we have to get them built. But it just, so is that part of the scoping when we say we're gonna add this, we think it's gonna get with the adjustments and get it done within, is that part of when we analyze adding the additional amount that we come up with?
Many of our projects, especially our structures projects, are funded in future years where we have not yet committed fully the amount of funding that has been programmed to the structures programs or to the individual programs. And so the funding would come out of those unprogrammed years. And the estimates are to address potential costs in those years rather than just taking a look at what does it cost today. If we're not going to bid it for 2 years, we add inflation or add estimate.
So we're watching the trends, it's our best guesstimate, yeah.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, because there has been I think a unstated theme, or maybe we've stated it too much, cost increases, right? Over this. We were planning in March, our workshop, to have a presentation, and Carmen might not be aware of this yet, but we wanted to have a more robust conversation about where we're seeing costs, what we plan for, what we've seen, and what we're anticipating going forward here. Because, we typically, just on a high level, we typically plan for about a 5% increase year over year as we build out this STIP, this 4 to 5 years transportation program. Last year, we saw around 14%. So we're reacting right now, but as we react, we're also anticipating, and so we're trying to better understand market conditions.
Which is great for planning, so thank you. I was just wondering if that's kind of what we're looking at.
Any other questions?
So I think it's carbon.
Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6A-13 is approved.
Thank you. 6A14, SR24 Fremont River Bridge replacement. Current project value is 6.2 and the requested increase of 1.8 to an $8 million project. This project scope will replace the structure 0C279 located on SR24 over the Fremont River, milepost 94.6 in Wayne County. The steel elements on this bridge have deteriorated to poor condition and are approaching the end of their service life. This project needs additional funding due to fluctuating material costs and labor shortages. The proposed increase is based on similar projects that have been completed and bid recently. Located here on our map. Our request today is a motion to approve the Fremont River Bridge replacement funding addition as detailed.
I'll make the motion.
I'll
you.
second.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 6A-14 is approved. Thank you.
That one goes down as Long Beach Road.
Mr. Chairman,
Next item 6A15 is informational only from the Wasatch Front Regional Council.
There we go.
500 west, 3300 south to 3900 south. The scope of this local government project is to reconstruct the existing roadway, upgrade the drainage systems, install bike lanes, and rebuild the signal at 3300 south. This project was initially approved and funded in 2015. Current estimates show that this project to be underfunded. South Salt Lake City is requesting an additional $2.5 million to account for the increased material, labor, and construction costs. The city has also committed to the entire shortfall of $2.5 million. This TIP amendment was approved in the Wasatch Front Regional Transportation Council Transcom meeting on February 17th of this year. Located here on the map. Along I-15, and 33rd and 39th south. Again, information only. There is associated with, in the packet, the letters of commitments from South Salt Lake City.
Do we know why they waited 7 years to do this project? To approve in 2015? Why they waited?
Probably the year was appropriate.
Sorry, the question.
Why they waited this long to get this project?
A lot of times these WFRC or local government projects are approved like 5 or 6 years in advance. This particular one was initially approved in 2015, so they're just finally getting to the point where the year the money was programmed is now available to spend. So that's why that's where it's at. The initial amount, again, we've kind of seen this recurring theme that inflation, labor shortages, material costs are just catching up with this. They programmed it for what they thought it would be. The inflation factor is just kind of
Similarly, a local government project within WFRC's boundaries, SR 68 Redwood 4100 South to 54 South. Is a funding addition, informational only. The scope of this project was to improve operations and safety by adding additional turn pockets and constructing bus pullouts, burying the overhead power lines and improving street lighting along Redwood Road. Recently, bids were open with the low bid coming in 22% over the engineer's estimate. The main items that came in include several concrete items and the construction costs of burying the power lines. Taylorsville City would like to award the project so construction can begin this spring, and the city is committed to adding the entire shortfall. The TIP amendment was approved in WFRC's Transcom meeting on February 17, 2022. So located here on our map within Taylorsville. Also included in the packet is the letters of commitment from the city adding the funding. We have our last item, 6A-17, SR 52 and SR 114 intersection improvements. This is a new project funded out of the Transportation Solutions Program located in Region 3 for $165,000. Currently, westbound traffic on SR 52 or 800 North backs up from Geneva Road, SR 114 past 1500 West daily. This is due to only one through westbound lane from SR 52 to Vineyard Connector, SR 176. This project will modify the existing lane configuration at the intersection, allowing for a second westbound lane through the intersection. Located here on our map. And then some of the design work on what that will look like. Again, this is informational only. This project has been approved by the Deputy Director authority given in the Utah Transportation Commission Policy 01-01 for projects under transportation solutions projects under $250,000.
Okay then.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next item on agenda is the State Infrastructure Bank, SIB, and Ryan McMullen will present that item.
He's dressing like a banker these days too, I should know.
He's the richest man in the Babylon, she should.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you very much for having us today. All right, so today I have two requests related to the State Infrastructure Bank. The first is a traditional loan, and then the second is a follow-up to one of our more complex, less conventional loans that you've already approved, and we believe that that some changes have been made by the legislature that allow us to follow our conventional process in terms of finding or establishing the rate of loans that you've already approved. So as is our custom, first thing that we typically do is bring you up to speed, since it's been a couple months since the last time we talked about what the financial condition of the State Infrastructure Bank is. And so as of this month, our balance forward was $21.5 million. We dispersed $7 million that's not included in that balance. Last year, you approved a $7 million loan for parking structure to Salt Lake City Corporation. And then they came back in October to ask you to please extend the terms of that loan, because they have 180 days to finalize it, and they took a tiny bit over that. So you reestablished the terms of that loan, and then the following week they took the loan out. And so that's there in the loan disbursement side there, which brings our fund balance to $14.5 million. We have another loan that is still under contract, and in fact, they intend, and that's Midvale City, for the second parking structure. They applied for two. One of those has already been dispersed. The second one, they want to take out within the next couple weeks. And that's for $5.5 million. And then a couple years back, the legislature reserved $5 million for the inland port and attached some pretty stringent payback language, which makes it so that it's difficult for them to take it down right now because it has to be paid back with a certain source of funding that they don't really have right now. So when those are taken into account, the total unobligated balance is $4 million. And then today, I'm going to talk to you about an application that we received from Elwood Town for that bridge replacement that the Commissioner mentioned. We spent a considerable amount of time trying to figure out how to not make it a loan, but because of the exigent circumstances, they believe it's in their best interest to apply for this loan so that they can get that bridge reopened as quickly as possible. Should you choose to approve that loan, that would make the unobligated balance $3.2 million. Are there any questions you have about the fund balance?
I'm sorry, I stepped out for a minute. Where is Elwood Town?
Like Honeyville, isn't it, somewhere?
Between River City and Fremont, the home of some of my ancestors.
That's northern Utah, but.
You know where Tremont is?
Oh, well, I do now. And I know the senator will be driving it soon, so we'll get a further report on one side. Thank you,
We
that's,
could take him on a tour of Box Elder County.
That's right.
that's right.
It's up by Newcore.
I do know where that is. I do know where that is. I'm glad I asked.
All right. So the application that is before you today is from Elwood Town, and it's for a structure. It was recently inspected, and it was determined that it needed to be closed to traffic. And it's located on a town connector road, about 8,000 north, that connects the Box Elder County Major Arterial Road, Iowa String Road, to SR 13. The Farm to Market Road, primary school bus route to 2 elementary schools, a middle school, and an intermediate school, and a high school. And it's utilized as a detour route to and from the local Procter & Gamble manufacturing plant. And so as we talked to them, it became obvious that it's essential to their town's operation. We, as Cheryl mentioned, we discussed ways to potentially use the off-system funding, bridge funding that was recently made available. There were 4 bridges, and the other 3 are still there in need of repair and are on the list. The other one is closed on the list, and they need it now. So that's why we're here. They're requesting $800,000 in loan funds to replace this bridge. And there's some urgency because it's over a canal. Canals are, during the winter, they're dry. They need to get that replacement before the water starts flowing here in a couple months in the spring. As of the date of their application, the bond rate was 1.22%. The rule requires that we add 50 basis points, so that would make the loan rate 1.72%. They've asked for a 15-year term, and I'll show you just a little bit about Commissioner Kramer. There you go. There's the map.
You know, I do.
They're waiting for your visit.
That's great. And the population I see is over 1,000 people. Sorry to be so ignorant.
The application, and here's some pictures of the structure.
Like that guardrail there.
Some,
Yeah, the pictures.
some of the home inspection pictures.
Yep.
So, and then if approved, the amortization rate, this is the amortization table, it would be about $61,000 a year for the next 15 years for the town. We come to you today with a request for a motion to approve this loan so that we can get that bridge back in service.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve this
I'll
request.
second.
Thank you. Motion and a second, thank you. Any other questions from Lyle? Seeing none, all in favor of this, item number A, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-A is approved, thank you.
Thank you.
I can't say that very loud.
Okay, the next one, we're gonna go in the Wayback Machine a tiny bit. Last year, Commission approved 3 SID loans back on October 22nd, and the rate for the loans, it was a little different because the way that the statute, the legislature passed last year, it indicated that it authorized UDOT to bond up to $30 million for these loans, and the bond hadn't happened yet, and so we asked you for permission to make the rate of the loans subject to the eventual rate that we bonded for. And that was supposed to happen sometime in the spring, and then the legislature this year chose to place $30 million capital into the state infrastructure bank in lieu of that bond. And that was put in the base budget, which was made effective on the governor's signature on February 10th. And so we no longer have to wait for the bond, we no longer have to bond, and now we can go and follow the regular process that's in our administrative rule and go back to the actual date of application, which was last June, which makes it 1.19 plus the 50 basis points that's in the rule, or a 1.69% loan for the 3 entities that requested funds, and that's Sandy City for 15 million, South Jordan City for 9.7 million, and Mill Creek City for 5.2 million. Each of those loans are 15-year repayment terms, as you may recall, with a now established interest rate of 1.69%, should you choose to approve that. And that is the motion that I'm requesting from today, is a motion to approve the interest rate on those loans at 1.69% and keep the other terms as you've already approved them.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
It's a low rate. It's gonna seem even lower as the year goes on.
That's the point of the program.
That's why we're trying to help.
So I need to have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-A is approved, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You did good, Mr. Elizabeth.
Learn from the best.
Thanks, Kyle.
Okay,
Is the legislature looking at further additions to infrastructure bank this year, do we know?
It's still up in the air.
let's see, today is gonna reporting from the commission. Any other things you would like to report from my left side, Commissioner Memlov? Any committees you've attended, anything you would like to report?
Just so we continue to have our meetings in terms of purchasing and setting aside corridor preservation. And we've had some great discussions about what qualifies and doesn't, and that's been very helpful for me. I've learned a great deal, and I want to thank the staff for providing some additional tutoring for me, and I appreciate it. And Cash CMPO, we meet again next week, and there's a great discussion happening in Cache Valley about what do we want Cache Valley to look like in the future. And I'm very encouraged by this discussion. They're talking about corridors, they're talking about thinking about how you bring a type of freeway road, which is rapidly, the road is rapidly increasing the traffic into Cache Valley. So they're talking about that and having a great discussion. And I see now they're starting to talk about setting aside green space So there's a healthy discussion going on in Cache Valley. And we're also extending that discussion. I want to compliment Rob White. He's agreed to come to Garden City more often on a quarterly basis. So we
Hopefully we're in
can,
the summer.
So.
yeah. I've got to get him to ski, and then maybe we can get him. Anyway, we're having a discussion in Garden City is experiencing exponential growth. Commissioner Jim can talk about that. He's seeing it, and there's no vision for transportation yet on how we're going to move all of these people in and out, and new subdivisions are being approved and being built without great discussion. So we finally have the attention of the mayor and the city council, and we're going to start doing a quarterly meeting in Rich County, which I appreciate, and I think it's a good activity, and I appreciate Rob's responsiveness.
No update, you mean nothing.
You got a full service supermarket there now, so
Oh,
all sorts
wow.
of people are coming into the town.
I'd like to just follow up with Commissioner Mendela's comment on the corridor preservation. We are now doing an online auction again, our quarterly auction, and Charles and Diana and others have done an excellent job of making it very accessible, and it's a way to return money to the taxpayers on properties that we've had that are no longer in need for future expansion. So that's really good. Secondly, I do know now where Elwood is. I appreciate that. As I was coming into the meeting, I got a call from somebody that most of us know, Lane Beatty, and he was complaining about too much trash on the roads along highways. And I said, I just come back from Guatemala. I said, that's even a bigger problem other places, but he would like, of course, we all would like to have the roads cleaner. And he just suggested, that knows the liability issues. He said, I'm happy to clean them up myself. I said, that's a start, but better if they don't throw it out in the first place. But just comment from a concerned citizen whom we know and love in many ways. So thank you again for all that's going on. It's exciting to see this. I get a lot of comments. I'm so proud of UDOT. I'm willing now to tell people at cocktail parties that I'm a commissioner. I was a little nervous there for a year, so back on the circuit. So thank you so much.
Tell Lynn if he wants to see trash in the highways, go to the state of Nevada.
Really?
The minute you pass the gorge, you have piles of trash everywhere, all the way to the, yeah, we are much cleaner compared to that, and Arizona for that matter. Go ahead.
I just, there's a lot of good coordination going on in the Mountainland area too. They had yesterday a good meeting with Rob's team in Eagle Mountain and Saratoga regarding their desires for the freeway going out sooner than later out there. And as Rob said, we'll look at numbers. We'll look at what the statistics say and we'll just react. So I appreciate those ongoing coordination meetings taking place in that area as well. So.
You know, we saw the work of the Wasatch Committee today. A lot of their projects are coming through that they approved in the meeting I joined. They're functioning well. I appreciate the regional committees for the work that they do. The question I would have is, are we still doing the Adopt a Highway? Not so much, or?
We have an existing program. We're going through some pains right now, so we're reevaluating.
Well, I appreciate you letting our little juvenile delinquents clean up out in the Uinta Basin. I mean, clean the roads, that's a great service project.
It is.
That's all? Okay.
Well, I just again want to thank, as a commissioner at large, thank the UDOT world at large for the incredible support, responsiveness, and the hard work, particularly in these times of challenge, and for their leadership. It is so appreciated. But this is a guy who lived 20 years in Washington, D.C., and to see the collaboration and the good things happening here is just refreshing and a blessing to each of us. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And also busy with the Community Impact Board, there was this funding trimester. We had a lot of water, sewer, and roadways and trail system funding. We also had emergency SCIC meeting, which is a 7-county coalition meeting. Supposedly, the Surface Transportation Board has approved Uinta Rail. And of course, the minute they mentioned that, there was all kinds of filings, but they are really hopeful that they can get them through. I also attended to Region 4 STEM workshop. It was a commission down there. It was a great experience as usual, great education. Thank you, Region 4, for that. And we also had the Transportation Expo in Dixie, again, successful, 849 attendance. We had a lot of cities and towns explain, including UDOT, displayed their programs and projects, and we had a lot of people even happy this time. Much education. So thank you, UDOT. Thank you for all you do for us. Appreciate it very much.
We're gonna see Sunny St. George next month.
Next month, that's the next item agenda. It says commission meeting next month is in Washington City. And bring your suntan lotion,
At the city building.
bring your swimsuit or whatever you're gonna do, and bring your family with you to stay a few days and enjoy it, because it's gonna be a beautiful time. To me, you all look pale. You need to get some suntan. So come down and enjoy it. We will host you.
Will the tomatoes be ready by then?
I will make sure.
Maybe ship some in from Mexico.
With that, Carlos, any other last minutes?
No, Mr. Chair.
Terry, Lisa, anyone else? If not, I would like to today one last motion, please.
So moved.
Not debatable. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr.
See you
Chairman.
next month.